Hey guys, welcome to today's webinar, Things That Make You Go, Demystifying Intent Data. We're your hosts, Millie and Nirosha. We're so excited to be here. Nirosha is going to tell you a little bit about ourselves.
Thanks, Millie. So one of the things we really enjoyed this theme of marketing maestros, and it's something we really embraced through creating this presentation. But what we thought is before we get into the presentation, we'd introduce ourselves as your resident Bommie DJs. So Millie and I have worked together for 3 years at Bombora. I'm from a MarTech background, Millie's from an AdTech background. We're both not morning people, so we're struggling a little here. We both have Asian heritage, and therefore we love Asian food, and when we get to enjoy it, we very much do so. We also love to travel and explore, and one thing that we've really discovered working together is that we're quite passionate about good marketing. And this is something that, we talk about what we do at Bombora, and we talk about what's happening in the market, and that's something we wanted to bring into this presentation. And I don't want to age us both, but we both grew up in the 90s, and so hopefully that gives a little bit of an explanation as to some of the musical choices that you will enjoy during this presentation. So, our first thing that makes you go,
So the first thing that makes you go, is what is intent data and why should you care? So to really think about why intent data matters, you need to sort of understand the macro changes in B2B buying that has caused intent data to be so critical in today's marketing and sales stack. The first one, the average business buyer is pretty far down the purchase decision path before they ever engage with the sales rep, so nearly 60%, which means that by the time that they do engage with a sales rep, they've already done a lot of research and they have already narrowed down the vendors that they're planning on working with. If you haven't proactively engaged with them, you may lose that opportunity.
Cool, thanks, Millie. And one of the things that I do when explaining intent data and just the buying process in general, I think it's easy to really explain it from a B2C perspective, and I have an affinity for retail, buying things. So really using that as an example is, I think, really a good way to bring this home. So, when you shop, how do you generally shop? What do you do? Tell me about it.
I would typically Google search for what it is I'm looking for.
Right. And you're not alone. That's exactly what I do. I go in and I look at the different reviews, and I, read all about the different descriptions and what's best and so on and so forth. And then I try and hunt for the best price that I can get across a number of different sites. And my behavior doesn't change when I come to work. I still very much have that behavior. The only thing is I'm not the only one making that decision. So, I think that brings us to our next point around business buying as a group activity.
Right. So business buying, at most companies is now a group activity. So depending on what it is they're looking to buy, you can have a stakeholder group of anywhere from 5 to 20 people, all doing research online about that particular purchase decision. So really understanding the interest of the company as a whole is critical for understanding buying interest. And then finally, most of the research that's happening is online. I don't think this is revolutionary for anyone. According to Forrester, 8 out of the 15 most influencing content sources are B2B sources online. So these could be B2B websites or vendor sites or analyst firms, white papers, things like that. A lot of this research is happening online, so understanding research activity online is critical. So Nirosha, now tell us what intent data is.
Sure. So, intent data, as Bombora defines it, is information collected about a web user's content consumption or observed behavior. And this can provide insight about their interests, and from this indicate a potential intent to take an action. Now, the key word in there is content consumption, because there are different forms of intent, and content consumption is how Bombora defines its intent. So that takes us into our next thing that makes you go, all intent data is created equal. And we found this playful picture of this seal kind of being like, talk to the hand because the face ain't listening. That's a little bit of fun we had. But, this actually isn't true. There's a number of different sources of intent data, as we'll go into. So looking at this chart from the leftmost column, there are independent websites. So these are really, websites that collect content consumption information about their users. And they pass those insights on to third parties that sell that information. So the pros of this are that their intent data is very GDPR and CCPA compliant, and it's very high quality because they have absolute control and understanding of what their content is. The con of this is that it's low volume because it's literally just their website or their set of assets. So it's only really looking at their part of the ecosystem. And Billy, I think you're going to tell us about Bitstream.
Yeah, so another really common type of intent data is bidstream data. So, if you're familiar with programmatic advertising and the way that real-time bidding works, there's a lot of data that's exchanged throughout that buying and selling process, that can be used for intent data. So things such as the URL of where the ad is going to appear, as well as the IP address of the user. All of these things that are available through that real-time bidding of digital advertising can be leveraged for intent data. So there are some strong pros for this. Obviously, there's a lot of this data. It's very high volume. It's also real time, and pretty much any language you're interested in or any real product or service you're interested in, there's data out there about this. There's also some pretty strong cons with this type of data. Privacy is obviously a major concern for a lot of companies right now, and the compliance of this is really unclear. The user doesn't provide explicit consent for their data to be used in this manner, and they're not able to opt out of this data. So it's really unclear how compliant it is. And then the other thing is that it's very volatile and could be low quality data. So the data that's available is only biddable inventory. So that's really just a slice of the internet that you're seeing.
Cool. So that brings us to the co-op approach, and it's obviously in the center column, and it's highlighted in orange because that's the approach that Bombora actually takes. So it's similar to independent websites in the sense that it is based and focused on content consumption. But what a co-op approach to intent data is, it's a collection of publishers, and Bombora's data co-op started with publishers, but it's now extended to MarTech providers, events providers, analyst research firms, etc., where the content consumption information is pooled, and you get a larger set and a broader representation across an entire ecosystem of sites. So the pros of this, again, are it's GDPR and CCPA compliant, and everything with data at the moment is very, very focused around compliance and privacy. The other thing is it's a high volume of data because, as I said, the scale of this data is across a number of different websites, and it's quite representative. Now, the con of it, at least with Bombora's intent data, it's English only right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I think that we're working on, Millie.
Yeah, we are working on expanding our languages to expand beyond English, but currently English only.
Cool. So what we thought we'd do is go into a little bit about how Bombora collects its intent data, because data provenance is something that is important to know about. So as I mentioned, Bombora has a B2B ecosystem, it's our data core. And on the left-hand side are a number of different publications that are featured in our co-op, and they're members of our co-op. So what we do is we place a tag onto their site and we monitor the content consumption of their visitors at a company level, or identifying them at a company level. And the way we do that is through an IP to domain match. The other thing that we do on their sites is we go through and we analyze the content, and we categorize that content against our taxonomy. So we have over 6,700 topics that content is matched against. And the type of content sources that we look at are things like white papers, registrations, articles, webinars, and so on and so forth. And so what that means is we have an enormous amount of content consumption information. So, you know, the figure there is 29.07 billion events on an average monthly basis that we're looking at, and we're listening to 2.6 million businesses. And we take that intent data and we use that to produce something called company surge data. So Millie, you're going to take us a little bit through company surge data.
Yeah, so what Nirosha just walked through was the source of our data, which is our data co-op. So what do we actually do with that data? So we apply data science to that data. And what we're trying to understand is the normal research behavior between a company against a topic within our taxonomy. And what we do with that is to establish a 12-week rolling baseline so that we can compare the more recent activity to that baseline. There's 4 specific features that are considered within the model. So the first one is the number of topic events, so simply just the number of interactions between a company and a topic. The second is number of unique users, so the number of people within that company that's researching that topic. The third is topic relevancy weight. So this is just a fancy way of saying, is the topic the focus of this content piece, or is it simply mentioned in the piece? And then finally, it's content engagement. So as Nirosha mentioned, we have direct relationships with every single member within the co-op. And because our tag is placed directly on the page, we're able to measure engagement with that content. So is this person simply coming and bouncing right away? Are they scrolling through the page? Are they spending time on that page and engaging with that page? So that's the fourth feature. And all of these features are weighted equally to understand the normal behavior between a company and a topic to compare to the more recent behavior. And so what we actually do is we use a company surge score to represent any changes in the intensity of that research. So as you can see, you know, most of the time there's really no change in consumption. It's the same as it normally is. Sometimes it actually decreases in consumption, 24% of the time. But when we tell you that a company has a score above 60, that means statistically we've found that this company is researching much more than they usually do against a specific topic. And so that's what we deliver, which is a company surge data. And so what company surge data does is it tells you which businesses within your target accounts are actively researching your products and services. And it doesn't say here, but more than they normally do. So that is company surge data. So now Nirosha is going to walk us through our third thing that makes you go,
Intent topics are the same as keywords. So, Millie, we're going to play a game here in this section. Now, I want you to pretend you're a marketer. Oh, you are a marketer.
I am a marketer.
Don't need to pretend. So, as a marketer, I want you to tell me which of these articles are actually about the topic of marketing automation for you. And I'm going to read them out to you. They're numbered 1 through to 4. So listen carefully. So number 1, DemandBridge announces the opening of a new office in Hunt Valley, Maryland. Article number 2, tech firm Daxco acquires software company. Article number 3, automotive mastermind makes strategic decision to strengthen product and technology divisions. Or article number 4, top 10 marketing automation tools every marketer must have.
Let me look. I think number 4.
Ding, 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 you'll be right. So it is article number 4 indeed. And look, while I have chosen examples that are probably a little bit extreme, these results were taken from a Google search for the keyword marketing automation. It was a Google News search, and these are the articles that appeared on the first page. So I guess that gives you a good example of what sort of content can be returned through keywords. But can you tell us a little bit about intent topics?
Yeah, so this is a question we get pretty often. So, a lot of people are really familiar with keywords. They're used in search, they're used in other channels. They're simply just the terms or the words that are on the page, and you can scrape them off the page. Topics are different. We put a lot of effort into creating our topic taxonomy. We actually have a deep learning natural language processing model that is able to predict the topic of, of content. So that requires that it actually understands the context and the content within the page. An example that I personally like to use a lot is social media. So let's say there's a content piece that talks about Facebook, about Twitter, Snapchat, LinkedIn, and the page is really about social media. Our topic taxonomy may predict that the piece is about social media, even if those words never appear on the page. However, if you are taking the keyword approach, it may find things like Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat, but it would never associate that content piece with social media because it doesn't understand what the content is actually about. So that is topics versus keywords. And we'll go into our next thing that makes you go, Intent data is a silver bullet that works instantly. While we would love to say that it is a silver bullet and works instantly, and as soon as you implement it, all of your problems will go away, that is simply not true for most of our customers. One of our biggest advocates, Paul Green from Extreme Networks, he talks about this quite often. He has seen so much success with intent data. But that didn't happen right away. He actually had 3 failed pilots, 3 attempts with intent data before he was able to actually see any results. We'll walk through some of these failed attempts and common misconceptions that some of our customers have.
Cool. So the first failed pilot was for Extreme Networks was this focus on single topics. So what does that mean? Interest in one topic does not equal purchase intent. And the example I'm going to use here is Bombora. So if an account was interested in Bombora, highly interested in Bombora, I can't necessarily assume that they want to make a purchase from us. They may be interested in the brand, they're probably interested in the surfing, the wave, exactly, the wave. They may want to work with us, whatever it is. So I can't assume from just that interest in a single topic that they're interested in buying and jump on them. So what I want to do, or what we want to do, is expand the search. So say if I look at other topics in combination with Bombora, say for example intent data or company search, which is our product. So looking at product and branded intent topics, that starts to create a stronger picture. Again, let's layer on some of our partners that we work with in our ecosystem. Say, for example, Terminus or Integrate or Everstream. That starts to really create a strong intent around that. And again, let's layer on another level of topics. So say these are more generalized industry terms associated with intent data and with what we sell, from predictive lead scoring to account-based marketing to demand generation. That starts to create a really strong purchase intent. And what this is sort of leading to is the idea around topic clusters being a strong indicator of intent beyond just a single topic. And with our taxonomy, there are 6,700 plus intent topics that can really drill down at a very granular level into what your customers are interested in with regards to your products and services. Now, this is one of the biggest success factors to making intent data work for your business. So you really need to put in the time to map out these topic clusters, at least against your strategy with regard to your products and brand at a minimum. The other thing that you can look at is your competitors, and then you can start breaking the clusters down across perhaps your product lines and things like that. And this graph on the right, it shows you it's an example of how you could potentially use your intent topic clusters. So looking at the y-axis, we look at the number of accounts versus the x-axis, which is the interest in the number of intent topics. So if we go from 10 plus, you can see that there are 50 accounts interested. Now this makes sense because you're not going to have hundreds and hundreds of, or you may do, but typically you don't have hundreds and hundreds of accounts, interested in at any one time. There is a smaller amount, but these are accounts that are really interested in your products and services. So you should probably call them now. And then you get interest in less topics. So you might look at applying more nurture or top of funnel activities. So that takes us through topic clusters.
So his second failed pilot was no integration to activate the data. So this is actually something we talk about quite a lot, that the data is only valuable when you're able to activate it into workflow, which is why we invest so much time and effort into building native platform integration. So we have several listed here. We also have a really strong channel network. So with most of the major ABM platforms and solutions providers, we have partnerships there so that the data can be activated into workflow. And in addition, we have professional services relationships as well with companies that are experts in leveraging the data and helping clients actually get value from it. So we work with agencies and other marketing services firms that become really experts in this data. And then his third failed pilot, failure to align cross-functionally on responsibilities. So what he didn't do in this third failed pilot was really gain that cross-functional alignment with his counterpart, Jake, which was in sales, so that they each knew what their responsibilities were to make the program work. He has since, worked much more closely with Jake to actually to do this, and we actually have a quick clip.
And at one point, sales, right, asked marketing, right, what can you do for us? And ultimately, it was help us prioritize. So we probably went from 100 or 200,000 accounts to 300,000 accounts to 400,000 accounts. How do you make sense of that?
Yeah.
Right.
If you're an ISR, if you're an SDR, and you're sitting at your computer and you get, we just finished with the Arrow Hive acquisition, and there's an additional 30,000 customers in our CRM, and you sit down in the morning and you look at your account list and you just see hundreds and thousands of more accounts and contacts you need to reach out. How do you focus? How do you prioritize? And this is really our ask, and how we partner together to make sure that our teams are working efficiently and as effectively as possible.
So that partnership between Paul and Jake was really critical in making intent data work for them. When they didn't have it, it simply failed. And now that they have it, that clip was from our last intent event. They've seen hundreds of new opportunities come in. 73% of those new opportunities are new logos. Some of their pretty early successes have seen, over $1 million in new opportunities. And then, with one of their channel partners, EX Games, they were able to see 2.5x lift in conversion. So really impressive results because they've now been able to work cross-functionally across sales and marketing. So that brings us to our next thing that makes you go, girlfriend, things to make you. But can't you have quick wins with intent data? Nirosha and I really kind of debated a bit about this. While it's not a silver bullet, there are many ways to have quick wins with intent data. So tell us about one of them.
Thank you. Yes, we did have a little bit of a debate, and yeah, this is where we ended up. I think while Paul's example with extreme networks really highlights his persistent, I think there are really some quite easy ways or low-hanging fruit to be able to test and learn using intent. So one of them is just as simple as getting a list of your target accounts, finding out where there is content consumption interest or company surge, giving that list to your inside sales teams to call on these accounts, and really just comparing the results to a control group of accounts. So and see whether you have had lift. And this is really a use case for sales enablement, where a lot of our customers have actually started and seen success and grown from there. But this isn't the only place that you can have quick wins. There are a number of ways to get value and drive quick wins across sales and marketing. And Millie, you're going to tell us a little about marketing automation.
Yeah, so marketing automation is another way to get a quick win. So obviously we have integrations with major marketing automation platforms, but you could also easily take that list that Nirosha talked about, upload it into your marketing automation platform, and better segment the prospects or customers you already have. Send a group an email that's focused on the topics that they're interested in, and compare it to either control group or whatever else you would have done, and see what the results are. Do some A/B testing, and that could be a really quick win.
Yeah, and I mean the next use case is around events management. So it's similar to what you're talking about, being able to gauge interest and really use that for your events. I think in fact that's what Marketo did. But more defensively, you can use that data strategically to really find out where interest is, because the data is available at a geographic level. So being able to understand and use that to plan and invest for events is invaluable. We've already been through sales enablement. Millie, tell us about digital advertising.
Yeah, so digital advertising, and similarly with lead gen, another two quick wins. With digital advertising, you could easily just focus your advertising effort on those that are more interested in your products or services, and potentially reach them with a message that is relevant to what they're interested in. With lead generation, with the content syndication you're doing there, you can also focus that effort on companies or people that are more interested in the content that you're sending out there, or more interested in your products and services. And those could be really quick wins. They're actually some of our most popular use cases.
Yeah, and with customer success, it's probably a bit more of a proactive approach around it. Again, using this data to understand when your customers are potentially going to churn. Looking at and interested in your competitors or similar products. The other way to be able to use it is really to understand when they're branching out and they're looking to explore other product lines, or and to be able to really grow an account. So these are a couple of ways to be able to have some quick wins with intent. So that brings us to our next thing that makes you go, Intent data is only for big companies. Is that true, Millie?
Intent data is not just for big companies. While we work with some of the largest B2B brands out there, HP, IBM, all these big brands, and we highlight them at our intent event and through our customer stories, we're really seeing that the insights that we've gotten from helping these brands have enabled us to be actually able to create a growth package, a smaller package for up and coming B2B brands and sophisticated marketers of those companies to be successful with intent data. And we're really seeing a lot of innovation there and success there.
Indeed, we are. And one of those brands is Hushly. So, it's hyper content personalization, but a fairly new brand. And that's what Hushly's challenge was, is standing out in this ever crowded B2B ecosystem. So, what did Hushly do? I mean, they found a lot of success, particularly, they have done a lot of different activities, and James, their CMO, is a big believer in test and learn. But what he found was LinkedIn was a really great generator for them. And what he did was he overlaid and used company search data in LinkedIn, and what he found was that that really helped him to reach and convert a highly engaged audience that is in market now, and that was critical for them. So Hushly, by using the intent data, they saw a lot of results and across budget efficiency, performance optimization, and really some tangible ROI to its bottom line. And I don't want to steal his thunder, because James is actually going to be at the B2BMX conference coming up, going through this case study. But these are just a couple of the results that James had with regards to performance optimization specific to LinkedIn. So there was a 498% jump in his click-through rates, a 414% improvement in the lead conversion rate, and a 7 times improvement in website engagement. I mean, Millie, those results.
That's impressive. It's really impressive.
So I think that that sort of goes to show it's not just for large companies, and really it's about taking the data and being able to start with it and test and learn, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that takes us into our next section, which we've kind of, I think we've gone through most of our hmms. What we're going to go into is what you need to know. So some of our real key takeaways around being successful with intent. And our first one.
I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want.
So I love that song. Knowing what you want, what you really, really want. So one of the things that we hear a lot from people is, how do I know intent data is working for me? And that really starts with testing and learning. Having a measurement and testing framework to begin with. We really encourage our prospects and customers to do that. Just a simple A/B test works, or a control group, or just comparing it to what your normal benchmarks look like, so you know whether or not intent data is really, really working for you, and then learning from those, so you can either fail quickly and move on, or continue doing what's working.
Cool. And what's our second thing that we really, really, really need to know?
So, when you have great data like intent data, you actually don't need to do as much sales and marketing. So one of the, this is a quote from one of our customers, Tim Freestone, and what he was doing using intent data was actually driving far fewer MQLs and MALs. He says he was 600% down, several 100% down in marketing accepted leads. So, most people would say that's a huge failure, but he was really clear about what he was looking to do. And that was about measuring opportunities, and opportunities were up 200%. So, he was able to, even though, saw a decrease in leads, be focused on what he was really looking to do, which was increase opportunities. So when you have the right data, you don't actually have to do a lot of sales and marketing to generate more opportunities.
Yeah, and I think there's a challenge in there, right? Because it's like you get a little bit scared because, I think there's this fear factor. And I think that takes us into what you need to know, number 3.
Let's get it started. Let's get it started.
We really, really did have fun pulling this together. But following on from that fear factor, you just need to get started. And innovation will follow. So the examples that we reference here is one of our clients, Oracle, that we've we've worked with over a number of years and also have been a guest at our Intent event. So Oracle started with sales enablement, sales prioritization. They started with pulling the reports, giving them to their salespeople, and then they advanced to being able to pull the data into a data lake and really start to do some integrated marketing using intent data. But where Oracle have taken this is to now be able to use intent data with Conversica to really start to automate some of these interactions and engagements. And here are some of the early results that they've had that Calvin G shared last year at our Intent event. And really, these 1.6 million in pipeline generated using this innovative avenue and activity is quite significant. The other example that I'll mention here is Juniper Networks. So also an Intent event alumni. Juniper Networks again started with sales prioritization. So really pulling out and understanding these reports and getting their sales teams to work with them and seeing what success and what results they had. And they didn't just do it in the US, but they applied it across their global enterprise. And you can see that some of the feedback that they've got here from their sales team is quite significant. One of the quotes reads, "The data is surprisingly very accurate for Ireland. I will use it now to target accounts in collaboration with the SDRs for my region." That's a pretty powerful quote to have from your sales team. And what Juniper Networks has done is also they've pulled this data into their data lake and they're using it in integrated activities. And what Brian Cooper has done is developed what they're calling a marketing bot. So really pulling all of the relevant information to basically put all of this content and data into the pockets of their salespeople. And in that, they've included intent data. And it is actually one of the most popular features within that app. But
That's really cool.
yeah, I mean, if he hadn't started where he did, they wouldn't have innovated and come this far. So I really throw back to to someone that we've featured, Paul Green, that we've heard from, and a quote that that he's given us. And I'll read it. It's honestly one piece of advice. A lot of what you've seen and heard might seem technical, and it might seem that you can't do it. Just choose 10 topics, start small, and just have some quick wins. Make mistakes, fail fast, and move on because this stuff works. And, I couldn't have said it better myself. So really, that's right, I didn't. So that brings us to the end of our presentation. Both Millie and I are very thankful for your time and for joining us. We hope that you took some valuable information away and you learned something new and something about our musical choices as well. We very much take a test and learn approach and big believers in making sure that you find value in every tool that you use. So if you're not already, we invite you to try Company Surge Data. We have a tool that allows you to get 10 prospects delivered to your inbox every week. There's a link here, and I believe there's a link in the resource page as well. And as for what we think your next move should be, we will leave you with our final song.